Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a secret unused ODST drop pod hidden in the Halo 3 game files. So, on the mission The Ark, you may remember that you eventually come to this point in the mission where there are a couple of ODST drop pods that landed here, and their hatches are opened, there's nobody inside because there's a couple of dead ODST bodies around, implying that they did not survive the landing or the Covenant swarmed them shortly after they landed. But either way, these drop pods here, you know, they're not real. They're just scenery objects. They're just placed there. They don't really do anything, and just nothing you can really do with them. But hidden in the game files is another version of the ODST drop pod that actually is a little bit different than the ones on the Ark. Mainly, the ones hidden in the game files are actually a machine tag, whereas the ones on the Ark are just a scenery tag. The difference between a scenery object and a machine object in Halo 3 is that scenery objects, they are, well, literally just scenery. They're placed there, they're not meant to be interactive or anything, they don't really do anything. But a machine tag, when linked up with a button to activate it, makes it functional, as in interactive. So these pods are actually functional. And you can actually, if you know, using the official modules, if you spawn it in and you link it up with a button, which I did, you can actually activate the pod's animations, and you can see it actually flies up and it deploys its parachute as well. So let's play in slow motion here so you can see that all happen. It happens very quickly when it deploys its parachute, and it shoots up into the air really quick too. But the ones on the Ark can't do this because they're just scenery objects. They don't have any of these kind of functions. They may share the same model, but they're not functional drop pods like these are. So these are never used anywhere in the game at all in any mission. They're just left over there in the tags. Maybe they were meant to be used by Bungie at one point, but I guess they decided just to not use them and just use the scenery objects on the Ark instead. But as you can see, these may look familiar to you actually. The parachute is actually pretty much exactly the same as the ones in Halo 2 during the Delta Halo cutscene, where Master Chief and a bunch of ODST drop down in pods. It deploys a similar parachute, and I mean, it looks a little bit different. I think the parachute's a little bit like glitchy compared to the one in Halo 2, but I suspect that all this is just left over from Halo 2. The pod itself might very well just be like a touched up version of the Halo 2 pod with maybe improved Halo 3 textures. But everything else, the model, the animations and everything, were probably just ported over from Halo 2, or could even be left over. The entire pod could just be a leftover tag from Halo 2 and just it was never used or removed in Halo 3. But one interesting thing about the animation is that, as you saw, by default, when I activated, the pod goes up, and then when I reversed the animation, it went down. Well, you can see here, the pod starts going down, and then when it deploys its parachute, it goes up. So what's interesting is that in that cutscene, the pods in Halo 2 are actually playing the animation in reverse by going down. And then when it activates, the pod shoots up in the cutscene, which is where the animation comes from. You saw when I activated the switch, the pod just shot up in the air. That's the default animation. So it's kind of like reversed, which is kind of odd, but that's probably how it works in Halo 2. So now you know. The cutscene starts off by playing the pods in reverse, and then deploying the parachute is actually playing the actual normal animation. Now, one other thing is that there's a second variant of this pod. The same pod, you know, it's still a machine tag, it's just a different variant of it that doesn't have the door in the front, the hatch, or whatever you want to call it. It's just not there. But it's still the exact same pod. It can still be activated and deactivated by the switch, and has the same animations and the parachute and everything, but it just doesn't have the door. The ones on the Ark also don't have the door, because it uses the same model, so it's just using a no-door model. But that no-door model also exists for the machine version of the drop pod. One other interesting thing is that if you look in these pods, you'll see that there's these weird textures that are kind of broken. They're actually supposed to be glass textures, and they're also there on the campaign version, the scenery version. And as you can see, that's what they look like. They're not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to look like clear glass. And if it's actually easy to remove them or fix them. So if I do that, we can actually see what's underneath these pods. So I'm just gonna quickly remove them right here, and once they're removed, you can see that there's actually kind of flashing lights underneath, and that's something that we actually never get to see at all, because even in the campaign scenery version, the glass texture is actually broken. So all this time, all these years, the pods that we see in campaign have a glitch on them, have broken textures or broken shaders. Also, another interesting thing is that now that we know the parachute actually works in the pods, that this little thing up here is indeed the parachute and functional in the machine version of the tag, we could see here on the arc that these pods that deployed or dropped on the ground, they did not actually use their parachutes. The parachutes are still there. The parachutes did not detach like they did in Halo 2, which means that, I mean, that actually might explain why the ODST didn't survive their landing, because the parachutes didn't actually deploy. Although that's probably just an oversight by Bungie, or they probably didn't like feel it was necessary to really go to that much detail on the pods. Because, you know, we never actually get to see the pods in action in Halo 3, so we never would have known those parachutes are actually, well, parachutes and are supposed to be functional. But yeah, there you guys have it. That is the secret unused ODST drop pod in Halo 3. So hopefully you guys found this video to be interesting. If you did, make sure to leave a like. And big thanks to my friend ThunderMG for showing all this to me. I actually never knew the second variant of the pod, but it's actually really cool, and it's very interesting as well. So big shout out to him. But anyways, if you, anything else for me to look into, or any other questions you might have, just let me know in the comments down below. But aside from that, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys!